Thanks for listening to Westplex Talk. Find out more at westplextalk.com. Now, it's back to the two guys who were described by talk show expert Jeff Allen from News Talk STL as the best talk duo he's heard since Charles Jaco and Peanuts the Squirrel. It's Brad and John.
Not just they can do that on our airwaves, but that they can do that as one of us, as badge-carrying employees, as paid contributors to our sacred airwaves.
Do you have your badge? Do you have your bjshow.co badge, John?
Yeah, I do. I scanned it in, one time I used it at Wash U during a riot, and then Wash U fired me. And I was just like, I just had to go to the bathroom. Free Palestine. And then they fired me.
Do you get West News Magazine at your home?
I do. I intentionally signed up for it after they stopped mailing it to everybody. Yeah, I did. I did get it.
Did you see this about the demolition of Chesterfield Mall? Do you know what I'm talking about?
What about it?
Well, what's interesting is there's a film crew coming in that's doing a documentary on this. And the company's called Bright Sun Films. And the guy's name is John Shaw. He's a producer. He said they chose to feature Chesterfield Mall in their documentary from a long list of malls slated for demolition across the country. Quote, "We wanted to do something about malls in America since I've been fascinated with dead malls and the phenomenon around that and how retail goes through an endless cycle," Williams said. "It started in the town center, then it grew into the suburban town center style with the indoor retail. Now it's dying. All these cities across America have these massive buildings that they don't know what to do with, and I've been interested to see what happens to them." And he's doing this documentary about Chesterfield Mall being torn down. But now here's what's interesting. He said, now here's some interesting numbers. Let me read these numbers. So, sort of fascinating. Where the numbers are pretty interesting. He talks about the fact that once upon a... He says, according to Capital One Shopping, there were as many as 25,000 malls across the country in 1986. Now it's estimated there are 1,150. It went from 25,000 in 1986 to 1,150. And they say by the year 2032, there may be as few as 100 malls in the entire country. Now, what's interesting...
Good. Get rid of them.
Now,
raise them. Get them out of here.
He talks about... This is what's interesting. Part of the reason is they picked Chesterfield Mall is that it has unique aspect to it. You know what that is?
No, what's that?
Well, he says, quote, "There were karate classes, a clown school, a church, a museum," Shaw said. "There were a couple of antique malls, a piano store, and then the Cheesecake Factory. And then there was an Indian restaurant and pickleball, obviously." And he says, "That was the most shocking thing we saw, I think. We just walked in and saw people playing pickleball in the concourse area. We've never seen anything like that." Here's a guy that covers dead malls, and he's never seen pickleball.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hadn't caught on somewhere. And what I love, Brad, and it's a time suck, so I try to stay away from it. But the guys that do the Urban X guys that do they'll either fly a drone in above a mall and then they'll actually break into a mall. And several folks have done that at Jamestown Mall, up by us in North St. Louis County. And it's just fascinating. I mean, it's heartbreaking because, at least for me, you see all the places where you spent your youth and your adolescence, and you see them just in a horrific state of decay before demolition. But it's still fascinating.
Yeah, it is, and I'm the same way. I mean, I didn't live real close to to Jamestown Mall, but I had a friend of mine that when he was going to college, matter of fact, it's a long story, he was out of college. He got kicked out of college, but that's a whole nother story. He's trying to get back in. He took a job as a maintenance guy there, and he was one of the guys, and he actually worked for the mall. He was one of the guys with the big monstrous 6-foot wide broom that would just go up and down the mall all the time. And I used to go and walk with him. I used to find him, if I wasn't doing anything, I'd go, "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" Him and I would walk around the mall, 10 or 15 times as he's push brooming the thing. But that one's sad. Here's the crazy thing. Look at Northwest Plaza. It's on Northwest Plaza version 3 now, because originally it was the outdoor mall. Then it was the indoor mall. Now it's sort of like the outdoor mall again.
Is there anything up there anymore at Northwest Plaza?
Oh yeah, have you been there a long time?
No, I haven't. I haven't driven by there in 10 years.
The famous bar store is now the satellite office for St. Louis County, believe it or not. You can go up there and pay your taxes and talk to people. And
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there still is the office tower. I don't know what's in the office tower anymore. But what's happened is all the businesses are now like, pad sites. In other words, they're all like on the periphery. There's
I see what you're saying.
The big anchor store up there now is Menards. They have and the Menards, like, if you've ever been in a Menards,
I have, yeah.
the Menards are like Home Depot and Lowe's on steroids. They're usually they're much bigger than those, and you can buy all sorts of crazy stuff in Menards. I mean, they have food and all sorts of stuff like that. And it's interesting because when I used to run my business up in Des Moines, Menards was in Des Moines for a long time. And the Menards stores, at least up there, were relatively small. And when I heard they were coming to St. Louis, like, for example, one out in St. Peter's, it's like a whole city block out there at St. Peter's.
It is. That's the one I've been to. I think that's the only. I've been to two different Menards, but that one's just mind-blowing.
Right. It's huge. Okay. Now, here's something interesting. Do you heard this crazy thing about The Onion buying InfoWars?
I have, and I didn't know if this is just a trolling operation or what's behind this. And then I saw in a headline that the folks from Sandy Hook might somehow be involved in the purchase of this. What's going on here?
I heard the interview with the guy who is the CEO of The Onion and the guy who was head of the Sandy Hook. For those of you who don't know, Sandy Hook was one of these schools where that crazy nut went in. First shot his mother to death in her bed, then took her gun and shot all the kids and the teachers and things like that. And that was the one where, what's his name again? I have Alex Jones. For some reason, I have a mental block with his name. Alex Jones went on his InfoWars channels and essentially said it was fake. It didn't really happen. None of those kids were killed. It was all just fake. So he lost in court. The parents came together and sued him, and he essentially had to give up all his assets, personal assets, his corporate assets, and they did an auction, and The Onion bought InfoWars at the auction. Now, I heard just yesterday, matter of fact, I heard it last night. Matter of fact, I heard the interview last night. I was out doing some work, and about 7:30 I heard the interview, and it was sort of interesting between the guy from The Onion and the lead guy from Sandy Hook, and he was talking about how, well, The Onion's the perfect place to have this because of the fact that what they're going to do is they're not going to roll this into The Onion. They're actually going to leave it up as InfoWars. What was it, InfoWars.com? Was that what it was?
I don't know if it was .com, but it was something like that. Yeah, I wasn't a regular reader of InfoWars.
Well, neither was I. And the interesting thing was that he was on some radio stations for a while, and I think he got the boot in most of the radio stations. But they're going to run this thing, and they're going to try to make a profit off of it and funnel the money back to the Sandy Hook Association. That's how the whole thing worked out. Is somehow the Sandy Hook people gave the seal of approval to The Onion with respect to that they're going to use it as a vehicle to fight, abuse and murderers and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of interesting. But Alex Jones is now complaining that he didn't have due process from the court systems and that he wants it back. And I'm going like, okay, here we go again.
What was fascinating about that lawsuit was, I guess, in discovery, a whole bunch of stuff came out about Alex Jones peddling a lot of the a deal that he had with one of those the folks that are preppers.
Oh yeah,
that buy all the all that stuff. Anyway, but I guess in the early days of COVID, I think Alex Jones's team was working with some company that was manufacturing the stuff, and through discovery, a lot of the emails. But it was fascinating to me because Alex Jones and team would be on the radio and on InfoWars and on their podcasts pumping this stuff, and then just watching the conversations that they made with this prepping company about how much of a share of the profit or the revenue that Alex Jones and team would get by hawking the stuff on the air, like, the world's coming to an end, COVID is terrible, you need to get your relief pack, whatever. And the profiteering they did from that.
Well, that was one of the interesting things that came out from this interview, that the Sandy Hook father was claiming that all these companies are making money on this, and he called out all the gun manufacturers. Look what the gun manufacturers are doing. They're saying if you got to have a gun, got to protect yourself. Well, to a certain extent, I have to say that it's to the point where when you read about the police and you read about the fact that in the city of St. Louis, some people call 911 and nobody ever shows up, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a saying if you're really into guns, there's a saying that's very prevalent in the gun industry. You know what that is?
What's that?
When seconds count, police are minutes away.
Yes.
Which,
That's
when
right.
you think about it, is really true, because of the fact that somebody breaks into your house and you dial 911, unless the cop is around the corner, the chances are the stuff's gonna what the defecation's gonna hit the rotary oscillator, according to Shelley. The stuff's gonna hit the fan long time before the police get there, and you can either be the victim, which unfortunately a lot of people are, or you can be the person who fights back. Now, people say, well, you don't need a gun. Well, okay. Let's, that same person that says you don't need a gun, and like what always cracks me up about the politicians that don't say, they say we don't need guns, and especially if they're way up the food chain, chances are they have a security detail, and either a private security detail or one provided by the government, like, for example, certain people with the Secret Service, Donald Trump, people like that, ex-presidents. And I guarantee you the guys who work those security details are not only armed, but heavily armed. As a matter of fact, probably the famous picture of that is when Reagan got shot within like 6 months of him becoming president back, was that 81, I think it was?
It was 81, yeah.
When he got shot, the thing that was amazing was one of the Secret Service agents pulled an Uzi out of his jacket. Okay, now for those of you who don't know what an Uzi is, it's a small machine gun. But once again, it's not the kind of small machine gun you put in your pocket. Even with it being a small machine gun, it's pretty darn big. It's got a big old 30-round magazine on it, which is probably, 9, 10, 11 inches long. And even from front to back, it's probably a good foot and a half or something like that. So once again, these guys are carrying some serious hardware around, but yet they don't want you to carry that serious hardware. But
yeah. But also let's get back to InfoWars. So are they going to operate it with new content, or what's their plan? I
get the impression from what he's saying they're going to sort of, use the Onion was the original one. Now you have Babylon Bee, which I think has eclipsed the Onion in many ways. But they're going to go back to sort of the tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. But their goal is to, I guess, the same kind of thing, make money off of it, sell advertising, do affiliate agreements and things like that, and try to take it profitable, make it profitable, and take that money and put it back into buying advertising and essentially, lobbying various states for gun regulations and things like that. I'll see if I can find the clip of it and send it to you. But it was on NPR. I can't remember which show it was on. I was out of the transmitter, working at night. You talk about the joys of owning a radio station, but anyway, that was the deal. So I thought you might find it interesting. Okay, one more thing. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
You're the expert. We might want to carry this over to the next segment. The Polymarket dude who got the FBI showed up at his doorstep and raided his house. Do you know about this?
Yeah, I saw it and I didn't click on it. And first of all, I didn't know that he was a long hair, which was surprising to me. I didn't know. What are they knocking on his door for?
Well, okay. First off, explain to everybody what the Polymarket is.
Polymarket is it's an online. I guess the best way to describe it would be like an online platform where you can bet on the outcome of a number of events. And it came to prominence because through September and October, you saw a market sweep on Polymarket of people wagering that Donald Trump was going to win. And the conventional wisdom, or I should say at least what I viewed, was if quote unquote smart money, and so not people who watch NBC and ABC, but people whose livelihood and who have a whole lot of money writing on tax policy, et cetera, if those folks are betting that Donald Trump is indeed going to be president, they probably have access to good data and Trump will probably win. And in fact, Brad, in the final weeks, as we talked about Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris, and you held on to your Kamala Harris prediction, the one of the few things that actually swayed me in staying for Donald Trump was the fact that Polymarket clearly showed that Donald Trump was going to win. So in other words, you could go there, and as I understand it, you could bet on other things too, like, how many times will Elon Musk tweet today? And if you could bet, will it be over or under 20? And if you take 20, if you take the over and he bets over, then you win money.
Okay, here, let me read you the headline. FBI reportedly raids Polymarket CEO's home after betting platform predicts Trump win. And it says the people at Polymarket say this is political retribution. First paragraph of the story, the FBI reportedly raided the Manhattan home of Polymarket CEO Shane Copland early Wednesday morning after the election betting platform correctly predicted former President Trump's victory in the 2024 presidential race last week. A spokesperson for Polymarket called it, quote, obvious political retribution by the outgoing administration against Polymarket for providing a market that correctly called the 2024 presidential election. I don't get it. Why is he in trouble for that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't have any idea unless they I don't have any idea. I can't even speculate on that. I mean, I do know that they have some kind of involvement with cryptocurrency, or crypto is some sort of a part of that whole thing. And anytime you're dealing with a lot of cryptocurrency, I think you have in this environment, you're going to have a lot of eyes on you because that's seen by regulatory bodies as being shady, and a lot of folks don't report their gains and whatever.
Interesting. Okay, last segment of the show. We're going to start it off with J.C. Corcoran version 3.
Oh, wow, we got round 3, Brett. I didn't know that two boomers could go a full 2 rounds, much less get into the third round.
And by the way, are you into the Jake Paul Tyson fight tonight?
No, I didn't even know it was tonight. I knew they were fighting. That's tonight?
I believe it's tonight. They had the weigh-in yesterday, and supposedly Tyson slapped Jake Paul. Now, I'm going like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, they're working everybody.
Right. You know darn well. This is like shades of WWE, don't you think?
It's very much so.
Yeah, okay. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We'll talk about that, which is, and I'll get updated. I believe it's tonight, and I heard another radio host, another station, say it was in Las Vegas. I don't believe it's in Las Vegas. I think it's in Dallas, but let me check that.
Thanks for checking out the Brad and John Show podcast. This segment of the show is brought to you by John Combest's book, Stalking, Harassment, Internet Trolling, A Guide to Recovering and Rebuilding After Online Attacks. It's a great reference if you've ever been the unfortunate target of a social media attack. It's available on Amazon. Just search John Combest. That's Combest, John Combest, and the book will show up in your search results. Now it's time for another segment of the Brad and John Show. Can you handle it?